Hi, everyone. I welcome you to this conversation today. I have Krystal with me. Krystal, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Crystal, now Crystal Ladapo, and I think I am the newest member of the Ladapo family, and just feeling so blessed to be able to join you all and like just learn so much about my family and my husband. So I'm really excited.
Glad to hear that from you. Can you please tell me your background, where you were born and how and where you were raised?
Yes. I'm from Richmond, Indiana, but I believe you, like many would say, my grandparents were from Alabama, Goodwater in Birmingham, Alabama. My dad's from Kentucky, and that is a lot of where I get my culture, my morals, and the things that were instilled into me. But very proud of where I'm from. I was blessed to bring our family to my hometown to show you guys the warmth and community we have there. And so that's really important to me, and I try to carry that everywhere I go. And I think that I have that in common with my husband and with our family now.
Great. While growing up, did you have any relationship with people of diverse culture, diverse background, diverse religion? What was it like growing up?
Growing up in Richmond, it's predominantly white, but there's a tight-knit Black community through my church, Mount Olive, and my pastor then, Pastor Randall, and my pastor now, Pastor White. But I did grow up with people from different areas of our country. I think there's a lot of discussion about how America is a lot bigger than it might seem in media, and it's very regional. So where you're from, people are actually, even though we're all American, we're all very, very different. Some people consider themselves Christian, Catholic, Jewish, but you all are brought up in the same place. As we were preparing to speak today, that's actually some of the questions I wanted to ask you, because you being born in Nigeria, me being born in America, I still feel like there's a lot of shared values, and I feel like we have a lot of the same perspectives. So I would actually like to pose that question to you as well.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you tell me about where you were born and some of the values of your community where you were born and raised?
I was born in the southwest Nigeria. I was born in a city called Ogbomoso in Oyo State. In those days, the Baptist missionaries had institutions, church, hospitals, and schools. So I was born in a Baptist hospital in Ogbomoso. And although originally my parents are not from that place, they went there to work. I was born and raised by two wonderful individuals. My dad was a teacher, my mom was a teacher, and their teaching jobs took them uh, all over the southwestern part of Nigeria, especially the larger Oyo state then.
If I may ask, what you all shared with me, I hear about Ire, but that's not where you said you were born and where your parents started when you were young. Is that just, is it called something different, or am I missing something?
No, you are not missing anything. You asked me a specific question
Yes, sir.
and I answer your question. However, if you ask me where my parents originally come from, I will have told you they come from Ire. That is the what we can call our ancestral home where my parents were born, bred, and raised. However, because of the nature of human beings that always wanting to go out and seek for opportunities. My parents left Ire for higher education and for better job opportunities. And that is what took them to several other places. And when they were raising family, they did not stay in Ire at that point in time. They were actually living in a city called Ejigbo, also in Oyo State then, but now in Osun State. But the nearest hospital then to deliver a baby was in Ogbomoso, so they had to travel to Ogbomoso, let me give you this perspective. Assuming someone lives in West Lafayette, Indiana, and there is no hospital here, and they will have to go to Indianapolis, Indiana, to go and deliver their baby. That is a kind of a thing, and that is why you didn't hear me mention it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That makes
The,
sense, and I like the term, even though this not may not be widely used, but like ancestral home, that kind of like rounds that out for me. Because my husband, he explained to me that you like culturally where you're from and what people want to know about is where your father is from, and that helps you. To me, that also helps you stay connected. So I appreciate you like kind of explaining it different.
yeah. So Nigeria is a peculiar place. It's actually different from what we have here in United States. Do you know today, Krista, if your husband wants to get anything from Nigeria, he will be directed to Osun State, to the local government nearest to Ire to go and get it. All right. But your husband, my son, didn't have anything to do
Hmm.
with Ire other than the fact that his grandfather was born and raised there. Okay, I was not born in Ire. I went there to for my high school education because my dad took a job in the high school that I attended. So I stayed there for my education, elementary education, and high school education. And as soon as I finished that, I left and I never went back. I
Hmm.
left Ire 46 years ago. In May of this year is going to be exactly 46 years ago that I left Ire. I lived there for 10 years where I had my elementary school education and high school education. But the irony of it is that if your husband wants anything, maybe he wants to renew his passport, the requirement is that he will have to get a document showing that is actually from Nigeria and is actually from this local government. Your husband was born in Lagos, in Ikeja, Lagos, was raised there at least up to when he was 7 before he moved abroad. So if he needed anything about Nigeria, about proof of anything is linked with Nigeria, he will not go to Lagos
That's
where
so
he was
interesting.
born. He will have to go to Ire and the local government there.
Because I sincerely didn't know that you weren't born in Italy.
No, I
So,
was not born in Ire at all. And that is why it's always important to have this kind of conversation so that
mhm,
we can have the idea of what each place looks like.
mhm.
But when we have conversations like this, it helps us to put things in perspective. Because you are from Richmond,
Yes, sir.
Indiana, but were you born there?
I was born there.
Okay, so when did you leave Richmond?
I left for the first time for college. I went to Nashville, Tennessee to go to college
So when you finish your college and you have your bachelor's degree, did you go back to Richmond
for a short time.
for a short
Yes,
time?
sir.
Okay, yeah. So why did you go to study law to become an attorney?
So I wanted to be an attorney since I was 5, and I stick to that. I did not have the most probably admirable reasons when I was 5 because my godfather was a lawyer
It's
and
good.
he was practicing in the DC area. And he was extremely well dressed and well spoken. He has shiny shoes. And I was like, I want to be that. That's what I want to do.
That's good.
But as I got older and as I matured a little bit, I found reasons that meant something to me. I started out after the death of a 12-year-old in Ohio named Samir Rice, playing with the toy gun,
Hmm.
and they shot him in less than 10 seconds. And I think that's something that radicalized me, and I really wanted to be able to navigate the laws for my people and everybody around me. So I've had this same dream for a long time, but the reasons have changed slightly over the years.
I cannot believe that there was a probable cause for the individual that did that to have done that. But I attended Citizen Police Academy in West Lafayette uh, Police Department. The West Lafayette Police Department organized Citizen Police Academy, and I believe in 2013 or thereabout, I attended a 6 weeks course. And the essence of the academy is to tell the leaders of thought in the community how the police do what they do. And that is to say, the training, we went through the abridged training of what if a police officer would go through. Okay, so we were taught how they identify the bad guy. That is the word they used while we were being trained, and how to defend themselves against the bad guy. When you see how they are trained, you probably would not be mad at them, because most of them just adhere strictly into the policy and procedure of what they are supposed to be doing. And so, if a young chap pointed a toy gun at a police officer, how do we know that it's actually a toy gun?
Mhm.
The police officer may not know that this is a toy gun. The training is that that is an imminent threat,
Mhm.
and they can respond with full force.
Mhm.
But another person may say, even within the system, that the best thing was to have de-escalate the situation. But today's conversation is not about the police, it's
Mhm.
about us, it's about our tradition, it's about how we grow up, it's about how we are able to understand the dynamics of the sociology as we all grow up and as
Mhm.
we all move from one culture to another culture.
All I was gonna say about that is I do have, strong feelings about that particular, so much so that it got me off the couch to go become an attorney. But as it comes to like, just to bring it full circle, my grandfather that you met, Charles, he is a retired police officer, and I've had the blessing of having lifelong conversations about these things, even before I cared, even before I really knew what was happening. And my bachelor's degree is in criminal justice. So I spent those 4 years talking about policing and how that works. And something that we are sometimes find ourselves on the opposite sides of different things, but something that we both have always agreed on is the importance of community policing and things like when you did the course with the West Lafayette Police, is I think the situation with Tamir, just as it remains, is like if the officer was from that area and knew him, then he may have been able to give him the extra 5 seconds to save his
Yeah.
life. And so like I try to stay on that side of it because that's something that I think can change. And I think some police departments are working to make sure that officers live in the areas that they police because you and I both know in small towns and smaller areas, the better you know people, or if someone is doing something that's not necessarily illegal, but doing something out of line, it's so much easier to be able to go to their parents or their grandparents, or if they respect you enough to call them out yourself versus going to someone that doesn't know either of you. And I think that that's something we can work on in our own communities and families, and that's something that we can make a priority. Even now, our family lives in close proximity. So as you and your siblings are community leaders, like you're able to take a stand and hold us all accountable in ways that not everybody can, if that makes sense.
You told me earlier, a few weeks ago, I think that was last month, that you do not intend to be a prosecutor.
Hmm.
And after you said that, I was going to say, oh, maybe I could convince you to change your mind, but my job is not to convince anyone at this point and at this stage. But I think uh, the reason you gave for not wanting to be a prosecutor, uh, to me, if you allow me to be a judge and jury, I will say it's not that weighty enough. But it's your decision. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I I live in a community where I participate in what is called CASA. And CASA mean the court appointed special advocate for abused children. And I've been able to do this for about 8 years now, I think. And my experience in CASA shows that if you are a prosecutor, let's assume you decide to be one now, your voice matters. Your presence matters. Your advocacy or lack of it matters. As a matter of fact, showing your face to as a prosecutor can say a lot of things to so many people, especially to members of the community that are minorities. It can be an inspiration. It can be something that someone may want to turn a new leaf and say, hey, I would like to be like that. But there are so many other ways you can be that without being a persecutor. But if I had my way, I would have pleaded with you to say, hey, don't shut that door. What do you have to say to that?
I have been trying to see if there was a path that I felt comfortable in that. And the thing that I think that prosecutors do that is the most worthwhile work is they are able to give people the sense of justice when people are actually harmed or wronged, or I do believe there are people that need to be punished for the things that they do. I think some of what we were talking about, like when it comes back even to your ancestral home, I imagine mine would be Hazard, Kentucky and Goodwater, Alabama. And knowing all of my grandparents and most of my great grandparents, the fact that the system is still treating people, the things that my grandparents went through when they were doing the bus boycotts and my family in Kentucky when they were enslaved on a plantation in East Kentucky, they still do that, you know? And like as of today, they've managed to, once the slaves were freed, as a result of Jim Crow, they started modern policing imprisonment and navigating that system. I have relatives, there's plenty of Black prosecutors. That's just not something that I personally have arrived at. It's not completely closed, but um as I say, the Lord is still working on me there, and I would have to see a path for more like restorative justice. Like, I think people can do wrong things, but the modern pop or the average person, you have a lot of involvement in the court system, so you know differently. But the average person would be surprised that people are not incarcerated for the things that you would think, and the sentences for egregious crimes aren't really that long. Some federal sentences for small amounts of marijuana are larger than, you know, people that abuse children or do things that we all agree are not in our best interest. So when the day comes that I'm able to reckon with some of those things, I think I would be in a better position to do that.
Thank you. In one of the, you wanted to know which cultural tradition I would like you to preserve. Is that right?
Yes?
Okay. So, one thing about us, and when I say us, US, I mean you and everybody now, is that we give a lot of respect from our hearts to the elders. And we show this respect physically. Even though it's from our heart, we still show it physically. That is one of the core things about our tradition. Let me give you an example. In the morning or anytime I see people that are older than me. They can be brother figure, they can be father figure, they can be great father figure. I don't call them by their first name. No, that is one. When I greet them, I do it physically by bowing, kneeling, and prostrating to them. Separate us, the Yorubas in Nigeria. Nigeria as a nation has so many cultures, tribes, nations, I may be allowed to use that word. So many people, different tongue, different dialects, different languages. But one thing about the Yorubas is that is unique to us. we don't joke with that. And it's something that if care is not taken, the younger generation do not see it as something important. But God so good, my children, including your husband, were taught that. And so, if you ask me what is one of those things that I would like you to preserve, that is number one. Number two is that we are very hospitable people. If you come to visit me, I want to be as hospitable as possible. And when my mom was alive and my mom was here with us, anyone that comes to this house, mom would like that person to have a meal with us. I always tell mom then that, Mom, this is not possible, that everybody will have to have a meal with us. But that is who we are. We are a people that like to use food to show hospitality.
Respect your elders, respect them physically. Make sure that you are hospitable when someone comes to visit. And if we're gonna start with four, it's
Yeah,
respect parents, but it kind of is number one, but it's up to you. You're the boss
yeah,
here.
yes. Okay. So yeah, so those let me stop at that. Those
I do have something to say about that.
Go
Just
ahead.
as an outsider who has shared values, something that I believe that if your generation, parents and now grandparents want younger people or even new people coming into the families and into the tribe, like a lot of these things weren't necessarily explicit. And I personally found it frustrating because something as a Black American person, respect for your elders and respect for your family, that is just, I just can't even express how important that is. And the fact that something as simple as like curtsying for people, like that's how I could have showed respect this whole time. Like I did not love that I found that out like closer to me getting married. And I think I believe like my siblings and my husband, they just assume that you will pick it up. It's not like anyone's withholding it from me, but I think that for the new generation, if we could work out a way to be more direct about how it works, because people want to, what you would like to preserve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for saying that. I think we would need to be more straightforward and intentional about some of these cultural issues that does not hurt anything, does not hurt anybody. You
Hmm.
know, if I say that you respect your elders, it doesn't hurt. If I say show it physically, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't take anything from anybody. I remember one time, I'm going to delve into some of the things that happens politically now. Obama went to see one uh, head of state, and in his presidency, he went as President of the United States of America, and he bowed to that individual, and he was taken to task that America does not bow to anybody. I looked at that as something that some people are just looking for opportunity to politicize something, because it's actually something that makes someone to be sensitive to the culture and tradition of other people. So if you are the president and you know that this is the way they greet the leaders of the nation you are visiting, and you do that thing, you earn the love of the people, because you are not bound to do that, but when you do, they love you more.
Hmm.
That is one. Let me cite another example. Language is very powerful, more than you can imagine. The president of Federal Republic of Nigeria and his wife, this last few days, was hosted by King Charles of United Kingdom of Great Britain. And King Charles spoke the Pidgin English, that is the strict language in Nigeria. And everybody was excited about that. Now, some people may be mad with King Charles for doing that, But he did it to the admiration of millions of other people and to show them that yes, we know who you are and we love who you are. And that is one thing about this cultural interchange or exchange. Now, it is not difficult for your husband to key into Americans' culture because an average Nigerian does not have problems with American culture. As a matter of fact, most Nigerians here lived as if they are Americans. Okay. So, and that is why the spouses of Nigerian immigrants, I've seen them, they are excited also to learn about Nigerian culture, about the language, about the clothing, about the social, you know, this component of that culture. And we see more and more of that these days. Hello, okay.
Yes,
And
I'm here.
yeah, and we see more and more of that. And it brings joy to me because these are the things that can make this world a better place so that we don't demonize anyone, we don't stereotype unnecessarily in order to hurt or harm other people.
I I will say that one thing I will say is sometimes um, I do agree that like most just people from diaspora, African people, when they come to the United States, they are able to adapt to American culture, and I think it is a pretty smooth transition. I will say, in our experience, my husband, your son, when he met my family, there were some things like, just little things. I'm like, when he comes in, he's used to going directly to everyone and saying hello. But I was like, no, you have to fix your food so that when you go sit with them, you can stay. Because once you interact with someone, like some of our elders, they expect you to be there until they're like, you're going to be there for a while. So, like, little things like that, but his heart and his willingness and his openness with them made them so excited to learn more about his culture and where he's from and wear traditional attire during our wedding. Like they were so excited to show love and respect to your family because Allah showed love and respect to them first. So I just want to say that that goes a long way in that, you know, when you give a little, you get 10 times.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to assume that every African immigrant, every Nigerian immigrant is open about displaying, exhibiting the Nigerianness in them.
Hmm.
I know that we may have some outliers, some people that don't care about that again. Let me give you an instance. For a typical Yoruba man, we don't braid our hair. We don't use earrings. And this is how we groom male children for leadership because we do not think that that is who we are. That is our culture. And because in Yoruba land, the people that braid their hair uh, and they are male are the people that worship a particular god in Yoruba land. So, and that is why we are usually not comfortable with that. I didn't train my boys to do that, and I'm hoping that they will not train their children to do that also. Did we train them to wear earrings? Because we think that is gender based. But I've seen people doing that. I do not judge them. I love them for who they are, but I'm just telling you the cultural intersection right now. So we need to also talk about that. I do not see cultural purity again, if you understand the
Hmm.
use of that word. Let me tell you why I mentioned that. Growing up, his siblings have a physical way of respecting themselves. Ola should not call the two seniors by the first name. But this is why I said we do not have purity of this culture again because we permitted it. My wife and I permitted it. And so they call themselves by their first names. So that has inched out of this cultural purity that we're talking about.
So I think that, well, first let me say when Ola and I went to visit an elder to tell him about when we had gotten engaged, Ola said, I'm going to Chopin's house or something like that. And she instantly was like, who is that to you? I don't know who that is. That's your brother. Like, don't ever, like, basically, don't ever say that to me. And so then that's the first time I caught, like, oh, that's probably like, she's not supposed to be doing that. Or not supposed to be doing that, but that's not like culturally like competent. But something that Ola and I have talked about is in the United States. I mean, you've been here longer, you've been an adult here longer than me, but something that I know being born here is that this country will try to take everything from you. They'll try to take your culture, your language, your religion, the way you walk, the way you do your hair, like to take everything.
Mm,
And something that I have witnessed in my dealings, just with people that have immigrated to this country is if you come from some place where that's not really how it works. I know Nigeria has its own problems, but taking everything from you is not their MO. It is here. So you have to hold on in this country to things in a way that you may not be used to. And it's a really serious thing. Um, I feel like sometimes when I speak to like Ola, Chope, if they don't understand like the seriousness in my tone for the Black American culture that I try to preserve, or when I ask them like, why don't you do this, this, and that? I know in their heart they're so proud of who they are and where they come from, but I don't know that they've grasped what this country's goal is, if that makes sense. So I just want to say that, and I will continue to say that, you know.
yes, thank you. So, um, and that is why I mentioned something like cultural purity. I said it's no longer there because my sister here does not call me by my first name because we grew up being taught that that is be. And my elder brother, I don't call him by his first name. Ditto with all other siblings. But when it came to our children, we had to pick what we think is essential. And that aspect we did not think is all that crucial, critical. So we let that slide. There are so many other things that we did not allow to slide. Let me give you another example. When Ola, your husband, was playing soccer in Manchester University, he sent a message to me one day with a photo of an hairstyle, and he said, "Dad, I want to barb this hairstyle. Am I allowed to do that?" And I said, "No, no, 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 my son, please don't do that." And he did not do that. I did not take that for granted. So that is part of our culture because he knows that there will be there are certain hairstyle that does not that speaks another thing, okay, but he wanted to be clear about that. So we have things that we said, look, we are not going to compromise, and there are some things that we say, let me just let it be.
He speaks about that more than you would think, and he values what you and mom value more than like I don't know. They all have a special game for you guys not to know how much they value what you say, which is fine because they respect and honor so many different things. But I think that you all have done a wonderful job because culture has to be flexible and it has to change, it has to adapt in order for it to be preserved at all. So even if your grandson, my nephew, isn't doing everything that you and your siblings did, as long as he grows up to be a proud Nigerian man and honor those things that you said are most important, like the 4.5 that we discussed today for sure. Like I feel
Yeah,
like that's what he can pass on to his kids.
yeah. So you wanted just looking at some of your questions. Let me ask you, how do you handle stress?
Now I am trying to just kind of let things go more. I spent most of my life trying to figure out how to deal with stress, but I think mentoring for me is just deciding that not everything is worth stressing about and not taking it in at all. But I would love to know what the answer is for you. You're pretty chill on the exterior, if I may say so.
Yeah, so for me, I face stress. I face stress every day, every time, because of the nature of my job. I see stress as something that is actually necessary to keep you on your feet. However, I make sure that I don't bite more than I can chew so that I don't get over stressed out. So, unfortunately, I do not have so much to do in terms of extracurricular activities.
Hmm.
What we are doing now is part of my podcasting. And when I started my podcast show, I wanted to get as many people on board to talk to them, have conversations with them. But unfortunately, the people in the areas of my influence are shy people. They don't want that. So, and I didn't want to stop what I was doing. So I
Hmm.
started the monologue. I started going it alone. In the last 1 year, I've recorded over 300 episodes of podcasts, which I call What Tonic Daily. But the umbrella of my show is called Global Perspective Podcast. By calling it Global Perspective, it means just simple thing that there is no one story for everything in life. Okay, if we had strictly to one story, we're going to run into error. And
Hmm.
so, how I address stress is that I look at the global picture of things. So, for instance, if something happens and it's hot, I look at the flip side of that and I look at what could have been worse. And so it helps me to put things in the right perspective of Thanksgiving. So that is just the way I handle stress. Career wise and professional wise, this is the most stressful time in my 16 years of doing what I'm doing. We don't have referrals the way we had it in the past. But I've decided to still be thankful because we are still in business.
Amen.
And most when I got into this service, I met some other agencies, some other companies that shut down before now. So I look at that and I told myself that what I teach in my Word Tonic Daily, what I preach to other people, I talk about resilience, I talk about endurance, I talk about hanging in there, I talk about not quitting, I talk about if you must quit, you must quit not because you are emotionally quitting. You
Hmm.
must quit because you have weighed things on the balance of scale. So those things that I tell people, I teach, I put on radio, I put on podcast, I begin to use it myself.
Hmm.
And so I use that to distress. I use that to handle stress.
I don't know if that's distressing for everybody, but it definitely, I can tell like you definitely carry yourself and someone that sees you when you're not on, like you definitely have a way of putting it where it needs, like the stress where it needs to be. You don't let it affect others. So I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate you answering that question of the ones on there.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's talk about your journey to become an attorney. What is the most stressful part of it?
I try to share my testimony about law school as much as I can because when I had come out of undergrad, I went to a small law school in Kentucky and I was academically dismissed.
You were dismissed?
Uh-huh.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, sir. So see, I'm not sharing my testimony enough, but I went for the first semester and I was diagnosed with ADHD and much later than that even, but so I didn't have any proper like study techniques. I just didn't understand a lot about myself and my own learning styles. So yes, I was, and I was gonna like appeal, but one of the teachers was like, "Honey, don't spend all your time trying to get back in and then having to pull your grades up and struggle. She said, take some time off." and come back when you're ready. And there was a time in my life where I was working, but I wasn't where I wanted to be, and I wasn't feeling like I was living in like the fullness of like my potential. So then I really dedicated myself, and I applied to law school, and I said that I would do every single thing I needed to do to make that happen. And I dedicated every waking moment to being a good law student and preparing myself to be a well-versed attorney. And it took everything that I had to do so, but it's one of my proudest achievements in my life is going back.
Yeah, that is a powerful, powerful testimony.
Thank you.
And I have not heard of this before. I think it says a lot about the person you are because it takes courage to be dismissed and to re-enter and to still finish and to still fulfill your dream. A determined lady. And honestly, I want to just pray and wish you all the best in this chosen career that you are in because you have really, really done good for yourself.
Thank you.
So, did you ask me how I spend my free time? I've answered that. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, about holiday tradition. When we were in Nigeria, living in Nigeria was much fun as far as holiday is concerned than living in America. In Nigeria, we can be here now and somebody will knock on the door and say, "Hey, are you in there?" And we say we are in, and they will come in with their family. We are passing by and we say we should say hello to you. And then we can start a feast. We can cook and start eating. So during holiday and festive periods in Nigeria, it's always a different ball game from what we have here. And so, since we have lived in this city for 20 years, and I want to assure you, you said something that America has a way of taking your tradition away from you. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
So that has really had impact and effect on our holiday tradition. But with you, your family, and your husband's siblings, our children, we're hoping that we will start that again, which is coming together during the holidays to whether we do something or we don't do something, but to be together is a critical uh, issue with us
Hmm. Hmm.
during the every holiday festival, whether it's Easter, Christmas, New Year. And but I understand now that because people are having families, you have to balance the equation. If you are here for Christmas, you may be somewhere else for New Year and so on and so forth. I understand that, but living in America has had impact on our holiday tradition
Yes, ma'am.
because we don't have so much people around us to do life together as far as holidays is concerned.
I have a question that's not on there. It's related to the holiday thing. So, your family, my new family, has made quite an impression on my Richmond family, and they want to see you. They like, so is there a path to us celebrating or my family coming to visit you all more? Because I believe that since we have a little bit more numbers and they are used to doing that, just like if I was in Nigeria, your family would have more numbers, but we are available and we are ready, and they love you all so much. And I would love to see that happen maybe like once a year or something.
Oh yes, I'm making that commitment. Yeah, we don't mind. We don't mind to uh do life together that way.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Because even my pastor be asking about you.
yeah, we don't mind at all. And it's something that we can after this time figure something out. Maybe every once in a while we find a place somewhere, some place to meet, whether it's here or in Richmond.
Yes, sir. I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
But yes, since I gave you quite a few questions, are there any others that you are so inclined to answer?
If you want to ask me a question, ask me.
Can you describe like the home that you grew up in and if it was different than like the
Oh
home you
yeah,
have now?
oh yeah. So I grew up I mean, my dad and my mom, I told you, were teachers. Okay, so dad and mom usually will be home by 2, 3 o'clock. Okay, so whatever pranks you want to play, you can't overdo it because their ego eyes are on you. All right. So, but this is where it became tricky for us as kids of teachers.
Hmm.
All eyes were on us to do well in school, to behave well in the community. We lived throughout in small towns. And so, because of the privilege of being the children of teachers, whenever they transfer my parents, usually they will transfer my dad and my mom will follow. Whenever we get anywhere in that town, in that city, there will be a few people that will be important. The church pastors or reverend, the principal or the vice principal of the major school there, the divisional police officer. Those are the most important people. And my dad, our parent, will be one of them. In a bigger city, then we can talk about business people. Maybe the richest person within that community will be the fourth or the fifth people that will be seen as important. I didn't know all this growing up. I started looking back to see it now
Hmm.
that that was our status. I didn't know. So we were privileged to go to school at the record time, at the right age. I had many classmates that are almost 5 years older than me. Krista and I will continue this conversation in another episode of the Global Perspective podcast. Thank you. God bless.